Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Hello, I'm Stephen Willis from the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, and I'm joined, as I am every week, by Josh Guest. And Josh, it is not very often that Ole Miss hires a former Mississippi State head coach to be an Ole Miss analyst on the defensive side of the ball, but that is exactly what Lane Kiffin did last week in hiring Zach Arnett to be a defensive analyst.
Leave it to Kiffin. That's all I'm going to say. Leave it to Kiffin. Not only is he a social media guru and needles and pokes and does all those things, but then he goes and does something like this. So your hated rival and you know their head coach gets let go, and he brings him on as an analyst. So, but look, Arnett knows defense. So, I mean, it's not a bad hire at any rate. But I guess you could talk about, how the mighty have fallen to go from head coach in the SEC to an analyst. But he did come to the light side from the dark side, and much better chance to play in a better, more meaningful postseason experience. I'll just call it that, hoping for the playoff. But if not, a really good bowl game. And so, and that's one of the things while we're talking about state and meaningful bowl games versus non-meaningful bowl games, and the Texas Tech coach that you ran and raved about that had the most crazy take ever, Caleb Cunningham. I just want to say his name. I watched some video today, and the highlight that stood out to me the most was the touchdown that the ball got batted around, and he caught it. And when he got up off the ground, there were 6 players in opposing uniform around him. I was like, he's just a grown man. He's just a grown man among boys. And so, I even saw highlights where he was blocking, where he did some end-around stuff, jet sweeps. The guy is just unbelievable. And I thought it was funny the first time they pointed to him on the screen. I thought, you don't need to do it anymore because you immediately pick him out, just his size amongst all the other guys. So, but I brought that up just because we're talking about state, and they're going to be all in for that young man. Several years ago, when it was Ackerman High School before it's Choctaw Central now, I went and taught over there on campus when I was a teacher at Holmes Community College. And so, and I'm sorry about my voice. My son's team played the other night, and he had something good happen, and I screamed really loud and lost my voice. So, but yeah, I went over there to Ackerman, so I'm familiar with the area. Nice little place in Mississippi, not far from Starkville. And so, again, this will be one of those players they go all in for, and as they should. I hope we can land him, though, because we do have a recent history of putting people in the league. I love it when Pratt Rogers asks you who Eric Moulds was. I know, played for the Bills forever. But, it's funny he didn't even know. So, but, yeah, head coach at State, now analyst at Ole Miss, and but he knows defense.
You know the best part about that?
What's that?
Ole Miss is paying him pretty close to the minimum that they play people, and Mississippi State's going to cover his salary essentially for this whole year because of his buyout. So if Ole Miss beats Mississippi State, which they're going to be favored to do in November, they will have paid Zach Arnett to beat them.
That's pretty funny. That is the best part, no doubt. I love it.
It's pretty good indeed. Now, just turn our attention to baseball real quick. This is the last weekend before SEC plays. I believe it's Morehead State who Ole Miss is playing. Now, I do not know much about Morehead State. I'm going to talk to Derek Vandy Griff and get some information for our video that we have on him. But what are you looking for besides a sweep, honestly, against Morehead State this weekend?
I mean, it needs to happen. We've been a little up and down. We came all the way back in Friday's game against Iowa, which was really fun to see. And I felt a little vindicated at the time because some fans were texting me about how we were not good and they were getting ahead of us. And I said, y'all, last weekend they were up 3-1, 5-0, 7-0, and lost all 3 games. We got a chance to come back. And we did come back Friday. It's just we imploded in the top of the 9th and gave up, 6 runs. Mm-hmm. So, that was a tough loss after coming all the way back especially. But then the way we just scored runs, even coming back in Saturday's game, I think Sunday, though, I think we took it to them from the beginning, which was nice to see. But I think
it was the Powders, right?
It was. And I was there, of course. It was because I was there, right? That's how fandom works. And so, but wasn't there earlier for the other two games because of other things. Like I said, my son's playing and other things. So his games come first. And sorry, Ole Miss. As far as attending, but we will be watching. We're watching, even if we're his game, we may be having it up on the phone, watching, keeping up with it. But yeah, I mean, I want to see the cream uniforms again. I kind of got excited. I liked them. I like seeing them out there.
They looked really, really good.
They did. I mean, I'm not generally. I like color, but I really, really, really thought they looked good and was super excited to see them.
This is a hot take, and there's probably people that are going to watch this video that are not going to agree with me. I like them better than the Pens.
Yeah. Oh, I think they may be my second favorite behind the powder blues. I mean, and look, I love the pop of the red jersey. I like the navy. I like the classic look of it. And I like pinstripes too, but man, the cream, I mean, I know it's new. Maybe it'll wear on me a little bit and I won't like it, but I want to see the bats stay hot. I want to see Jackson Ross hit about 14 home runs this weekend. Not really, but I want him to get back on track a little bit. I know Iowa kind of quieted him, but look, their starting pitchers are good, period. Their bullpen is a disaster. But it's probably
I don't think they practice with a strike zone.
No, I think I don't know which is a bigger disaster: Iowa's offense in football or their bullpen in baseball. One of those is the bigger disaster. I see your wheels turning.
Yeah, I'm trying to think because as good as Iowa's defense is, I mean, it's pretty good to win. Is go 10-2, 9-3, that level. Iowa's bullpen is going to cost them games in conference.
True. So I guess the bullpen's a bigger disaster. Good call. Good call. So, I just think we need to stay on track with the hot bats. I understand that when we get into SEC with the pitching, that the bats can't stay hot. It's just the way baseball works. Good pitching usually beats good hitting. But and I also want to see what we do because I believe Quinn is not in the rotation this weekend.
Yes, Liam Doyle is getting the start in his place.
So, I can't say I blame Bianco at this point because he's spiking so many balls on the ground and having trouble just commanding his fastball. And you can't have that. Going into SEC play, you got to have command and you got to have your pitches working because these guys, even Morehead State, the hitters are too good to be issuing a lot of free passes and that kind of stuff. You just can't do it at any level in baseball. So I want to see the pitching and the hitting keep going.
I think that JT Quinn needs a changeup. He desperately needs a changeup. His fastball is straight, and if it goes straight, it goes boom in college baseball. And so you're not going to be able to out velocity people, which he was able to do in high school.
Yep.
And once you get to college, they can catch up to it. If you have trouble with your control on your breaking pitch, all of a sudden you become a one pitch, straight pitch fastball pitcher, and they are going to tee off on that. He desperately needs a changeup. So when his 12-6 curveball is not finding the zone, and the Detroit Tigers went through something similar to this as last year. Alex Lang has basically an unhittable curveball, but then midway through the season, people just quit swinging at it because you have to get it into the zone. I think JT Quinn's going through a little bit of that right now. He desperately needs a third pitch. I think a changeup would serve him very well. And as we saw in the 9th inning, the kid finally showed up in the last game for a save. A right-hander with a good changeup, that's hard to deal with on any level.
It is. And look, young players out there watching this, movement is key. I've had this discussion. My son's a sophomore, and there's some kids in his grade that can sling it. One of them's got a straight fastball, and I've been trying to tell him you got to get a little motion, you got to control it. And that's what my son and I talk about. Anything you can get, and he's moved his arm slot to get movement on his fastball and his changeup. And so if you can get the movement's where it's at. Because as you said, you can throw 98 miles an hour, and if it's straight, these boys in the SEC are going to catch up with it, and they're going to hit it a mile. Any college baseball player is going to do that. So you got to get some movement. You do need that third pitch, and you need to command them all. And so, that Iowa pitcher that ear-holed
that kid was dangerous wild.
He was not effectively wild. And I had somebody, I was in the stands. Oh no. Yes. I was in the stands when he got hit, and somebody said that it was on purpose. I said, there's no way he wanted to load the bases to face Jackson Ross as a lefty. I said, he's just wild and he can't help it. Yeah. And so it was just unfortunate, and hopefully he'll be all right. But yeah, I mean, movement is key, and having that third pitch and being able to command them, at any level is absolutely key.
I know somebody really tight with the Austin Simmons camp, for instance. Somebody that has a lot of knowledge of that group. Austin Simmons can throw a 98-mile-an-hour four-seam fastball ball. He doesn't throw that at Ole Miss. He's taught to throw a two-seamer because they need that movement, because if it goes straight, it goes boom. So understand that, whether you want to call it a two-seamer, a sinker, however you want to look at it, that movement is probably going to be key. But Austin Simmons, by the way, that kid's going to be a dude.
And Bianco, every time he interviews after a game, like he came in and got 6 outs, it was 6 up, 6 down, and he keeps talking about how he has to learn to pitch at this level. I'm scared to death if I'm anybody else and he still has to learn how to pitch at this level, because he's been good. And I understand that if he goes through the lineup again, these hitters adjust and that kind of stuff. But he's been fun to see and exciting to watch this. And again, if he's having to learn and he's learning like this and he's already this effective, wow. And the kid, the lefty, help me out, that came in relief and pitched.
Oh, Wes Mendez.
Yes. Oh, he looked so good. And they left him in there a little too long. But
he looked like Doug. He looked like Doug a little bit.
Yes. And they left him in a little long, but Bianco addressed that on the radio after and said, look, we're trying to see if we can stretch him out to a start and let him go around the lineup again. He gave up a big hit and everything else. But, I mean, he looks so good for his time. And that'll come. I mean, he's a young guy, and he'll get that strength built up and all those things. So he's going to be a good one, I think. He looked really, really good.
Yeah, and to change the subject real quick, Coach Yo announced and Madison Scott announced that she is coming back, and that is absolutely massive news for the Lady Rebels, because there's other players that have been very effective. She is probably the most talented player on the basketball team.
Yes, and my wife and daughter will no doubt be happy for that news, because they're big Madison Scott fans. And but just I think you even mentioned it, Coach Yo doing something that's never been done before with the 12 wins in the SEC. And I know there's more games, but she still did it, and it's never been done before. And 3 straight seasons of 10 has never happened before either. Is that right?
Yeah. Like 3 out of the 4 best years in Ole Miss Lady Rebels basketball history as far as number of wins has been done by Coach Yo the last 3 years.
I mean, getting it done is Coach Yo. And so and the Lady Rebels. And so, the players have to execute. So exciting to see again. I think, the name is eluding me right now, but they're playing very well right now here at the end of the season again, and at the right time. So if you want to peak, you want to peak in March if you play college basketball. And so hopefully they can make a run. Hopefully somebody else can knock South Carolina out and they can get a championship, or either they can make it all the way to the finals and somehow pull it off against them. But LSU's not going to be an easy out either if they draw them at some point in the semifinals, I guess. So, hopefully they can get there. Hopefully they can, win a game and do some good things, or 2 or 3 games, but then get seeded well for the tournament itself and make another deep run. That'd be fun to watch.
Yeah, as Lou Brown once said in the movie Major League, one of these days we're going to figure out how to beat those guys.
That's right.
Yeah, so we'll see exactly what's up. And thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team, every single day. Josh Guest joins the show as part of his normal weekly slot, talking all things Ole Miss. He's up there in and around Oxford. And with spring practice and all that starting, it's going to be a little bit interesting indeed. Anyway, Josh, thank you very much, bud.
That's right. Hotty toddy.
Hotty toddy.